Hello, my name is ZachPayne, and for this week's tribute speech, I wanted to give a tribute speech to my favorite president, President Theodore Roosevelt. He is my favorite president. I think he was pivotal. He was a pivotal character in the late 19th and early 20th centuries for America. And most people know him as the 26th president, but he contributed so much more. And I believe that Americans can learn so much from Roosevelt and from his push for economic justice, and also from the rugged cowboy image that make Teddy the image of what America stood for and still stands for, which is equality and freedom. Roosevelt was a man for the people, and he inspired the teddy bear, as well as this speech. Now, while Roosevelt was the symbol for the American frontiersman, he was actually born with many illnesses and diseases and asthma. And that asthma actually kept him homeschooled. According to biography.com, it says that as a young boy, Roosevelt, or TD, as he was known to his family members because he wasn't fond of the nickname Teddy, spent a lot of time inside his family's handsome brownstone home, homeschooled due to his illness and asthma. And Roosevelt developed a strong training regimen with the encouragement of his father. His father encouraged him to exercise and to lift weights and things like that to help him overcome his illnesses and asthma. And he took that regimen and he put it into action, and that actually helped him become the strong man that he did become in his later years, in his teenage years, in his early adult years. And he kept that ruggedness that he had developed in his training regimen into his life and into his presidency as well, because he was America's first cowboy president. And he inspired other presidents such as Lyndon B. Johnson and Ronald Reagan to share that same rugged cowboy look during their presidency. He also inspired the famous childhood toy known as the teddy bear. The story goes that he was on a hunt in Mississippi, and they were hunting a black bear, him and a friend, and the black bear got tied around a tree, and Freddie refused to shoot it because he felt it was unsportsmanlike. And according to History.com, Morris Mitchum, who also made stuffed animals with his wife, decided to dedicate a black bear doll, and they named it Teddy's Bear, and that was the prototype of what would soon become the teddy bear. And Roosevelt, when he became president, served as a man for the people. According to the WhiteHouse.com, he took the view that the president was a steward of the people and should take whatever action necessary for the public good unless expressly forbidden by law or constitution. And his favorite line, which I love this line, is speak softly and carry a big stick. And because he was president of the United States, he didn't have to talk big. He had one of the biggest militaries of that time. Just as many presidents nowadays have the biggest military, having the U.S. military. And I believe he's relevant today for more than just his presidency and more than just his rugged outlook on life. His rugged outlook actually does help with this, because Roosevelt, even though he's listed among the greatest presidents, and for good reason, his relevance today comes from his tragic life and how he overcame it. See, we live in a world today where we deal with a lot of tragedy, and I believe we can learn from Roosevelt's example. The book, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, calls Roosevelt the American symbol of the strenuous life, the hard life. In 1884, both his mother and his wife, Alice, died, and they died in the same house, to the point that one of his house servants thought that the house was cursed. And this tragedy sparked Roosevelt to buy a ranch in the Dakota Territory and to start a life in the northern wilderness. And in Mansfield's book of Manly Men, the author states that he tamed the wilderness around him by taming the wilderness of his own soul. And he grieved and he got through it. And I believe that Roosevelt's life is a great example of how to deal with tragedy and how to rise above it. And I believe that that's a trait that we, in our current age of strife, in this land where we have epidemics and hard times and so much confusion surrounding us, that Roosevelt is a great example of how sometimes we just need to get out of society and to heal. We need to go into the wilderness, and not necessarily the physical one, but, maybe a metaphorical one, and we need to use that wilderness around us to heal. And I believe he's a great example of that. I believe he's a great example of equality for people. And I also believe he is just a great example of an American.